Okay, so let's take a look at 5.2, going a little bit more in depth with multiplying and dividing radicals. So the first thing is when we are multiplying radicals, I can only multiply radicals if they have the same index. At the same rate, in order to multiply radicals, I multiply the coefficients together, then I'm just going to multiply the radicands, or what's inside the radical, together, and then the last step is I'm going to simplify the radical as much as possible. A couple things to note: if I take the square root of a number squared, it's going to be the absolute value of whatever that is, which means that if I had a negative number or if I had a positive number inside there, it's always going to wind up being a positive value. If I do the cube root of something cubed, it's just going to be whatever the original value was. So if I did negative 3 cubed and then take the cube root of it, it's going to still be negative 3, which means that this can be positive or negative. So, as long as the index and the exponent, which are going to match, are odd, then it can either be positive or negative. If the index and the exponent are even, 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever it happens to be, it's only going to be the positive version of whatever it is. So if I have the square root of 9, that's just going to be 3. The square root of negative 3 squared, well, negative 3 times negative 3 is going to be positive 9, and the square root of 9 is going to be positive 3. If I have the cube root, then this is actually going to be negative 2. And if I have the fourth root of negative 5 to the power 4, it's going to be positive 5. When I expand and simplify, we're going to go through the process that we said up at the top. First thing, they have the same index, so I multiply the coefficients and then the radicands and then simplify. So I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 4. I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 45. And I'm going to say that I have 12 and the square root of 45. And then I can simplify the square root of 45. The square root of 45 will simplify into 3 and the square root of 5. Then I can multiply those coefficients once again. I'm going to get 36 and the square root of 5. In the second case, when I multiply the 3 and the 4, I'm going to get 12, and 5 times 75 is going to give me the square root of 375. I'll leave the 12 on the outside, and I can say that the square root of 375 is going to simplify into 5 root 15. And when I multiply that, I'm going to get 60 root 15 is going to be the simplified version. For the last example, I'm going to multiply this all into the first part and all into the second part. So for the first part, I have 7 and 5 is going to give me 35, and the 3 and the 5 are going to give me 15. For the second part, 7 and negative 6 are going to give me negative 42, and 3 and 3 are going to give me the square root of 9. Obviously, I can simplify this one, and I'm going to say that I have 35 root 15 minus 42, and the square root of 9 is going to become 3, or 35 root 15 minus 126. And there's my simplified answer. When we recall multiplication of binomials using the distributive law or FOIL, then if I'm FOILing this out, I'm going to square the first part, which is going to give me 9x squared. I'm going to multiply the first term by the second term, and then multiply that by 2, and I get negative 6x. And I'm going to square the last part, which is going to give me plus 1. I can do the same process for the second one. I'm going to square a. I'm going to multiply a by b and then multiply that by 2. And then I'm going to square b. If I have a negative in the middle, all that changes is I'm still doing the same process, but the middle term, when I square it out, is going to be negative. Which means that if I expand and simplify these where I have a radical, well, if I have the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, that's going to be the square root of 9. Square root of 3 times negative 1 times 2 is going to be negative 2 root 3. And negative 1 times negative 1 is going to give me positive 1. The square root of 9 I can simplify. It's just going to be 3 minus 2 root 3 plus 1. And then I can combine my like terms, the 3 and the 1, and say that's going to be 4 minus 2 root 3. In the second case, I'm going to fully FOIL it out. First term by first term. First term by last term. Second term by first term. And the second term by the last term. So if I have 2 root 3 times the square root of 3, then that's going to give me 2 and the square root of 9. If I have 2 root 3 times negative root 2, that's going to give me negative 2 root 6. If I have 3 root 2 times the square root of 3, then that's going to give me positive 3 root 6. And if I have 3 root 2 times the negative square root of 2, that's going to give me negative 3 and the square root of 4. This I can simplify to 2 times 3 minus 2 root 6 plus 3 root 6 minus 3 root 2. I can combine the like terms, and I can multiply out and combine these like terms. So if I have positive 6 and I have negative 6, those two parts are going to cancel each other out. And if I have negative 2 root 6 and positive 3 root 6, I just have the square root of 6.